Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I will talk about the movie titled The Revenant. But before that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. The movie begins with the scene of Hugh Glass talking to his son, Hawk, in his dreams as their home is destroyed by the colonizers. In the present, during the 1800s, a group of trappers, including Glass and Hawk, sneak through a forest hunting for pelts. The trappers are led by their captain, Andrew Henry. As their lead, he orders his second-in-command, John Fitzgerald, to prepare to leave camp as soon as possible. After a while, the camp is raided by a native war party. Realizing the danger, Glass returns to mobilize the others to get on the boat to the river. After a while, only a few surviving trappers board the boat and successfully escape. Henry asks Glass to lead his men through the land as he is familiar with the territory. Glass suggests that they get off the boat and travel to their base, Fort Kiowa, on foot. This idea is opposed by Fitzgerald, who thinks that it will lead the crew to their deaths. However, the team still follows Glass's orders to carry the pelts and belongings ashore. Henry requires the crew to stash all the pelts in a hidden place and go back to Fort Kiowa, which is quite a distance away. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald repeatedly complains about Glass's plan, calling it stupid. Even though Henry tries to intervene, Fitzgerald continues to scold Glass and his child, Hawk, his half-native son. After that, Captain Henry orders the group to go through the forest to return to their base. Meanwhile, the natives are searching for traces of Pawaka, the abducted daughter of the tribal chief. The chief leads the search, and together they head north after finding some traces of a campfire. The next day, the trappers continue their journey into the woods. While Glass is wandering in the woods, he sees several bear cubs. Suddenly, a mother bear runs towards and attacks him, attempting to protect her cubs. After a while, seeing Glass lying motionless, the bear gives him up and runs to her children. Seizing that opportunity, Glass grabs the rifle and shoots at the bear, but is pushed back and hit again. He grabs the dagger and stabs the bear several times in an attempt to kill it, only to send both of them rolling down the slope. In the end, the mother bear dies, leaving Glass severely injured. He is later found by a few people in the crew. Henry quickly gives first aid, but as the wounds are so severe, they believe he may die and will be left behind. Meanwhile, at the camp of the natives, a French man approaches and negotiates with the tribal leader. The leader wants the French to bring them horses and guns to find his daughter in exchange for the pelts. After examining that the pelts are stamped, which could only be distributed for a cheaper price, the Frenchman continues to bargain. Eventually, the Frenchman accepts the deal and gives the chief 5 horses. During this time, Henry comes up with a new plan. He divides the group of survivors into 2 teams. The first team takes the lead and scouts up front, while the second team follows carrying Glass. As Glass lies on the ground, Hawk gives him support to fight the pain. On a snowy morning, the team together carry Glass on a stretcher, slowly heading to their base. However, the bad weather and a dying Glass only make the situation worse. The crew is also exhausted. Fitzgerald suggests that the crew must mercy kill Glass. Henry, however, can't pull the trigger to finish Glass by himself. He comes up with another idea. Henry will pay 3 men to stay behind and take care of Glass. Jim Bridger, a young trapper, agrees to stay whether Henry pays him or not. Fitzgerald offers to stay and look after Glass, but in exchange he wants Henry to pay him $300 to make up for the loss of the abandoned pelts. Before parting, Fitzgerald promises to Henry that he will take good care of Glass until his last breath and execute a proper burial when he dies. While lying down, Glass begins to vaguely remember the good times with his family years ago, and then the traumatic past when he recalls the memory of his wife being killed in a massacre. Not long after Henry and the others are gone, Fitzgerald is left alone with Glass as Jim and Hawk are out hunting. He digs a pit and forces Glass to die. Fortunately, he is caught by Hawk. As Hawk tries to call Jim for help, Fitzgerald kills the boy to cover up his crime. When Jim returns from the stream, Hawk is nowhere to be found. Fitzgerald pretends to be oblivious while Glass has witnessed everything and turns a hostile look at Fitzgerald. As night falls, while Jim is fast asleep, Fitzgerald wakes him up and informs him that there was a native attack nearby and that they need to run away. Before leaving, Fitzgerald drags Glass down into the dirt pit and points the gun to end his life, despite Glass's screaming in pain. Jim attempts to stop Fitzgerald. He then tells Jim to kill Glass by himself so he can run away first. Still, Jim can't do it. He leaves a water canteen for Glass and follows Fitzgerald to escape. Meanwhile, Henry and his group head to the waterfall back to Fort Kiowa. Down the pit, Glass eventually manages to climb out and crawl around to find his son. At a tree stump, Hawk is found lying still. On the other hand, Jim gradually learns that Fitzgerald lied to him about the native attack, and there is no native party after them. Fitzgerald admits his lie and explains that leaving Glass behind was the right choice since Glass won't make it to recover anyway. Jim tries to reason with him, but to no avail. Later, the men continue to move toward the base. Elsewhere, Glass realizes that he is now left alone and promises to avenge his son's death. He starts to crawl to find help alone. Glass crawls to the riverbank to find some water and thinks of a way to heal the wound. He manages to gain some strength to move ahead. Not long after, he encounters the native tribe and tries to escape. As they pursue him, he drops himself into a waterfall. When getting downriver, he clings to a wooden tree along the riverbank and makes it to reach the land nearby. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald and Jim are on their way home. They encounter a native village completely burnt, and Jim finds a native survivor. He leaves some food for her without letting Fitzgerald know and then follows him on their journey. At dawn, Glass wakes up and continues to travel after a dream about his deceased wife. As time passes, he starts to get better. Glass steps ashore with a cane and sees a pack of wolves attacking a bison. In the evening, he realizes that there is someone nearby. It is a native man collecting what was left from wolves' hunt. Seeing the man enjoying the leftovers, Glass decides to ask for some. The two men only keep quiet and finish their meals. The next morning, the Pawnee man wakes Glass up. Glass reveals that he was attacked by a bear and his son had been killed by a bad guy. At this point, the native man, Hickok, sympathizes with Glass for his loss. However, Hickok advises Glass that he shouldn't take revenge as revenge is in the creator's hands. On the other hand, Jim and Fitzgerald finally make it to Fort Kiowa. At Henry's office, while Fitzgerald is lying to Henry about Glass's death, Jim is sitting in silence and feels bad about being part of it. Later on, Henry goes upstairs to get money for Fitzgerald and he notices the location of the safe. Henry pays Fitzgerald and Jim, and while Fitzgerald shamelessly receives the money, Jim refuses the cash and leaves. In the snowy land, Glass and Hickok have a good time together as they travel and hunt together. However, one day while continuing their journey, they encounter a snowstorm. As Glass can't cope with it, he falls to the ground unconscious. During this, Hickok tries to heal Glass by putting him into a sweat lodge that he constructs by himself. While sheltering in the lodge, Glass has a dream of a destroyed church. As he walks inside, he sees his son Hawk and hugs him. The next day, after regaining consciousness, Glass gets out of the tent and sees his companion Hickok being hanged on a tree nearby. He realizes that it is the French people who have a camp nearby that killed Hickok. During this time, the native tribal group is looking for the chief's daughter, Pawaka, and they finally seem to know where she is. At the French camp, Glass sneakily crouches down behind the horses when he sees one Frenchman dragging Pawaka to a hidden corner. Glass then quickly takes down the French guy with a gun, rescuing Pawaka. When the others approach, Glass shoots one of them dead and runs off with a horse, but he accidentally drops his canteen there. After being released, Pawaka goes to a stream in the forest. As for Glass, he decides to stop by in the middle of nowhere to rest. At the fort, Fitzgerald asks Henry to pay him for the pelts, but according to the captain, as the pelts are not in their custody and cannot be sold, no one can get paid. He advises Fitzgerald to wait for the army to arrive in a few months and then he can get paid. Angrily, Fitzgerald makes a plan to steal Henry's safe. In the wilderness the next day, Glass is attacked by the natives as they think that Glass has abducted Pawaka. Glass runs away on his horse, but unfortunately both fall off a cliff. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a snowfall, and the horse is long dead. He shelters inside its corpse to avoid the harsh weather. In the morning, he continues his journey looking for Fitzgerald to avenge his son's death. Later, in a cave, while resting, he inscribes on the wall, "Fitzgerald killed my son." At Henry's camp, a frightened French man comes to ask for help. He reveals that he survived the natives' attack and brings with him a canteen, which is identical to the one Jim left for Glass. As Fitzgerald confirmed Glass was dead, everyone is assuming that his son Hawk could be alive. Henry immediately goes with his trappers to find Hawk, but Fitzgerald chooses to stay at the base. At night, Henry and his trappers go inside the forest and find Glass, who is exhausted by his journey. When the crew returns, Henry immediately runs to find Fitzgerald, but the guy has run off. Before leaving, he took all the money in Henry's safe. Henry goes to Jim and furiously scolds him as he thinks Jim is in the same boat as Fitzgerald, who lied to him. Later, he meets Glass, who is getting patched up. He reveals to Henry that Jim wasn't at the scene when Fitzgerald murdered Hawk. Even though Jim knows that Glass was not dead, he was taken in and threatened by Fitzgerald. Henry says that he will track down and kill Fitzgerald himself, but Glass insists that he accompanies him on a horse so that he can avenge his son. Henry hesitatingly agrees. The next day, after a bath, Glass and Henry ride out of the camp and split up to track Fitzgerald. Glass finds traces of a campfire, while Henry is ambushed by Fitzgerald. By the time Glass reaches Henry, it is too late as he is dead. Glass carries Henry's body on the horse to continue his mission. Fitzgerald spots Glass from above and shoots at him, clearly killing him. He runs down to check on Glass, but it turns out to be a trap. It is Henry's body on the horse. Glass, who is lying on the other horse, shoots at Fitzgerald, but he only manages to hit his shoulder. As Fitzgerald flees, Glass chases after him and the two finally stop at the stream bank. They begin a brutal hand-to-hand combat. When Glass seems to defeat Fitzgerald, a band of natives appear from afar. Glass remembers Hickok's words, "Revenge is in the creator's hands," and he releases Fitzgerald into the river toward the tribe. The tribesmen finish Fitzgerald off. When they head toward Glass, instead of killing him, the tribal chief thanks him as he saved his daughter Pawaka. At the end of the movie, Glass goes straight towards the woods where he begins to see visions of his wife's spirit. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe to watch more videos like this, and don't forget to turn on your notifications. Which movie do you want me to recap next? Spam the comment section below.